This is BYU Sports Nation, brought to you by the BYU Store, simulcast on BYU TV and BYU Radio. Now, from Studio B, here's Spencer Linton and Jarom Jordan.
BYU Sports Nation is live, your day-to-day play-by-play in Studio B, presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere. Wednesday, April 13th, wherever and however you have chosen to connect. Great to have you with us. I am Spencer Linton, teamed up alongside a man who was hoping for a Provo Marriott Center mission call for one Colin Chandler. This is Jarom Jordan.
That's what Mark Pope said on Instagram Live. People were putting in their guesses, and he said Marriott Center, which is hilarious. He's going to Sierra Leone in West Africa. So congratulations to Colin Chandler. The hardest, most gratifying experience of your life awaits.
Very exciting news for Colin Chandler. I know, BYU basketball fans are like, oh, we want him now.
I don't want him now. I want him in the Big 12.
Exactly.
4 years.
Exactly.
I want him for 4 years in the Big 12.
Come back and lead BYU into their new era of Big 12 play. Here's your show lineup, including this thought-provoking gem. Is this season's BYU football schedule actually tougher than last year's rundown? Think carefully before you jump to conclusions on that. Longtime play-by-play man Dave McCann has a few thoughts on BYU's strength of schedule. Is he calling for another 10-win season? And we've got some coaching news, more coaching changes. Bring on today's BYU Sports Nation headlines with some breaking news. The Salt Lake Tribune reporting that BYU assistant Chris Burgess is leaving BYU to accept the same position at the University of Utah. Burgess has been an assistant to Mark Pope since 2015.
He replaces Eric Peterson, who was on the Utah staff and took a head coaching job in the Dakotas. So, yeah, is this the coaches leaving week? Is that what this week is? I love Chris. We love Chris. This is a bummer. Chris is a really good coach.
Yes.
But he remember he played at Duke. He transferred to Utah, so he played at Utah. He's going home in that way. But, yeah, we weren't going to hold on to the good assistant coaches forever. I actually love this because and it's a lateral move, right? Right now, BYU's not in a Power 5 conference, but BYU's a better basketball program than Utah. So I assume that Burge is getting a pay raise. Also, his daughter signed with women's volleyball at Utah. So that perhaps played a role here in being closer to her when she's playing games on the Crimson Court when they're not having practice, perhaps.
Chris Burgess is incredible at developing big men, not surprisingly. That is a bummer for BYU. Even though, he leaves Tiki Aliatiki and Fusini Traore, and he's done a great job with them. It's for selfish reasons, it's a bummer to lose Chris Burgess and what he can bring to a coaching staff, but we love him.
I want desirable assistants.
We wish him well.
Yeah, I don't want the assistants to be here for 20 years. I want other people to want them.
And again, to clarify, this is not confirmed by BYU yet.
KSL Sports is another source on it, so yeah.
The Salt Lake Tribune, KSL Sports reporting.
Well, BYU's not going to confirm it. Utah will just announce it.
Or Utah just announce it. Hasn't been confirmed by BYU or Utah.
BYU rarely confirms things where people leave, where they go away, like to other jobs. It'll be the other school who mentions that. Yeah. KSL Sports is reporting that as well.
Yeah.
So you got two sources now.
Let's continue on. Golf, huh?
Women's golf finishes sixth in the Chambers Bay at the Red Hawk Invitational, led by Anik Hutchkovich, who took fourth. Her third top four finish of the season. Cougars playing the West Coast Conference Championships next week in Vegas.
She's turned a corner, rocking that BYU Sports Nation karma. Men's golf, tied for eighth heading into the final round of the Western Intercollegiate Tournament. Round 3 currently in progress, with BYU's Carson Lundell leading the Cougars individually. He's tied for 14th overall at 7 over par. Good luck to the guys today.
Ashley Hatch and the world #1 USA women's national soccer team beat Uzbekistan 9-0. Hatch played 22 minutes, had a shot in her 8th game with the USA.
Softball have another game canceled. Second time this week after they announced that the game Thursday at Idaho State will not happen in Pocatello. This follows BYU's home game that was supposed to happen against Dixie State. That went by the wayside on Tuesday as well. So right now, next game for BYU softball, Wednesday, April 20th at home against Utah Valley University.
Cougars in the minors. Jackson Clough went 2 for 4 with the run for the AA Harrisburg Senators and a loss to the Portland Sea Dogs. Daniel Schneebly had a hit and a walk for the AA Akron Rubber Ducks. in a win against the Reading Fighting Phils.
All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending.
You're talking about it, and so are we. It's What's Trending on BYU Sports Nation.
What's Trending presented by Bodyguards, protection for a life worth living. Learn more at bodyguards.com. Let's look ahead at the BYU football schedule one more time in 2022, shall we? And we ask this question. With 5 Power Fives, including the likes of Baylor, Oregon, Notre Dame, Arkansas, and Stanford on the schedule, not to mention another Boise State clash, Utah State, Jarom, is the 2022 BYU football schedule really tougher than last year's schedule?
I think it is because you have tougher teams on that. BYU played, a bunch of Pac-12 teams. Pac-12 was down. That's why Utah wins it, by the way. And BYU wrecked those fools, which was great. It's different when you're playing Big 12 champ Baylor.
But you played Big 12 champ Baylor last year.
Right, and lost. Notre Dame. Arkansas finished as a top 25 team. Stanford stinks. That should be a win. Oregon was down. New coach, but it's still Oregon. It's still on the road. The sort of name value and talent of those teams is greater than the ones BYU played last year. Like they're actually better and they're more talented in many instances. It's one thing to play Washington State, right? Those like USC was down, talented down. BYU took care of business.
7 Power Fives last year.
Yeah. 5 this year, but this is tougher. Oh, by the way, Utah State won 11 games. Utah State's no slouch, but it's in Provo. BYU needed a tremendous game there. Virginia, BYU had to score 66 points. You know what I mean? Yes, Utah, no, not on the schedule. They're playing Florida. That was a team that went to the Rose Bowl. I think it's tougher because of not only name brands and the talent that comes with those, but I just think I think it's tougher. I think Boise State on the road is a tough game. That was a home game that BYU lost. I think Utah State's improved. Yeah, I think it's tougher.
Now, here's why I feel like these schedules are really close. And just maybe 2021 isn't getting enough credit. BYU played 3 conference champions last year. You mentioned them. Baylor, Utah, Utah State. BYU won at Utah State last year. Tougher than playing in Provo this year. Okay? And then BYU played Baylor. They'll play Baylor again. I don't think Baylor's going to be as good as they were last year. And Baylor's in Provo this year. BYU had to play in Waco last year. So right there, I'm already saying, okay, well, the 2 games against Baylor and Utah State last year were tougher than the ones that BYU are going to face this year. Utah is not on the schedule, but Utah went to the Rose Bowl. They were the Pac-12 champs. BYU beat them head-to-head.
Got them at the right time, which was good. It would have been a more interesting game later in the season. Yeah.
We don't know what in the world Oregon is going to be. Oregon last year was a big head-scratcher because they're a team that won at Ohio State
right,
and then tailed off. They lost to Stanford.
Yeah.
They lost to Utah twice in embarrassing fashion. They got a new coach. We don't know what's going to happen at quarterback. Is it going to be Bo Nix from Auburn, the transfer? Probably. They lost their best defender, who is going to be a top 3 NFL pick in Thibodeau. So what is Oregon? You're right. Name brands are bigger on this year's schedule, but I don't know that Oregon is that different than Washington State last year in terms of talent, in terms of just like the ability to string together a whole game. Like Washington State.
Well, those are 2 different things, right? Oregon's certainly more talented than Washington State.
They have more talent, but they don't.
In a given week, yeah.
But
so
they
is
have
USC.
not excelled with that talent.
Yeah,
right?
and so is USC. BYU won the game. But, yeah, no, I think it's tough. Like, BYU did not play any game remotely close to Notre Dame last year. Like, that
Baylor? Baylor?
That game by itself. No. Like, yes, but
Baylor was the Big 12 champ. They won the Sugar Bowl.
Yes, but Notre Dame is in a league of its own in this conversation. Like, playing Notre Dame a neutral site is unlike any game BYU played last year. It's going to be crazy. And it's an awesome opportunity. Like, if you win that game, amazing.
I mean, less Power 5 teams. Okay, fewer Power 5 teams, 5 in 2022, 7 in 2021. Okay, and I know not all Power 5s are created equally because you got Arizona in there, and Virginia didn't have a great defense, but
Wazoo wasn't that good.
I mean, 9 bowl teams. How much
hard to make a bowl.
Credibility do we put into BYU facing 9? Oh man, there were 9 bowl teams from a season ago that are going to be on this upcoming schedule.
Not hard to make a bowl. You literally can be mediocre and make a bowl.
But BYU played 3 conference champions and finished with 2 ranked wins. How many ranked teams will be ranked at the end of the season when we look at the end of the 2022 schedule. Because typically a couple of these teams are like, whoa, Arkansas, Oregon. They might not be good.
BYU didn't play a team like Arkansas last year either, by the way. Like that physical, that SEC, that kind of run game. Like
Utah?
See,
I think Utah's just as tough as Arkansas, physicality-wise.
Yeah, okay, yes, I agree on that. But I just think there's like a flavor that Arkansas brings that isn't Utah. Like, BYU didn't play a game like that. Like, there's a little barbecue sauce on that one that's a little different that is going to be an intriguing matchup for BYU. And luckily that one's at home. Because I think when BYU goes to Fayetteville, that's going to be one of the hardest games BYU's played in a long time.
When we looked at last year's schedule, going into the season over the summer, we were like, okay, there are two big games that were like, man, does BYU have a shot in those? And we were pointing to Baylor and USC. And then we were also looking at the Utah game. Oh, Utah's won 9 in a row.
Right.
Can BYU really do it?
We were fighting history and the Utes.
How many games do you look at this year with the returning talent that BYU has and think, oh, man, can BYU do it? I see one, Notre Dame. We had 3 last year. I see 1 on this year's schedule as like, oh, man, that's a tough game, and it's Notre Dame. You pointed out.
I wish Utah was on this schedule.
I just
They're
think
playing Florida instead.
The strength of schedule is close compared to last year. And I was with you.
I didn't discuss the margin. I just think it's tougher.
Until I look at it closely, now I'm like, maybe they're neck and neck. I don't even know if next year's schedule is tougher than what BYU faced last year when you look at the 3 teams that were ranked to finish the season and 2 ranked wins.
And it helps to have, like, Vegas, Notre Dame. It's not like Indianapolis, Notre Dame.
Sure.
Home Arkansas, home Baylor.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Home Utah State.
Can BYU win those games? Yes.
And I'm not discussing whether BYU is going to win or not. I'm just saying, like, how good are those teams? That's all I'm discussing. Yeah.
7 Power 5s. We're not getting caught up in that to the 5. Like, Boise State may as well be a Power 5 team. Utah State's really good. Thankfully, Liberty doesn't have their now NFL-bound quarterback, Malik Willis, coming back.
Yeah, he might be a Seahawk.
Or else that would be a little bit weirder with BYU having to go all the way to Lynchburg following a home game against Arkansas.
He would have been the best quarterback they would have played this year.
So, I mean, just looking at it from game to game, I say at South Florida, win. Baylor at home.
We'd like to think BYU can win that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Baylor, but toss-up is fair.
Baylor at home, toss-up. At Oregon, toss-up.
Baylor will be a slight favorite, yeah. At Oregon is going to be real interesting to see what the Ducks are. Yeah.
Wyoming at home, win. Utah State at home, should be a win. Notre Dame, even if you chalk that up as a loss.
Chalk it up as a loss, okay? Yep. If you win that, great.
Arkansas, toss-up at home. It's in Provo.
And at this point, what are the teams like? Because Robert and I told us it takes you half a season to know what you have.
Sure.
So at that point, is Jaron Hall still healthy, hopefully, right? Is BYU the same kind of offense we saw last year or better? Is that O-line dominating? Is Chris Burgess awesome? Is the defense taking the ball away?
At Liberty, win. Home to East Carolina, win. At Boise State,
better be a win.
Toss-up. Utah Tech, win. At Stanford, I have as a win.
Oh, for sure. No,
BYU should beat Stanford. So just there, I have
Tanner McKee Bowl.
7 wins, 4 toss-ups, and 1 loss out of those 12 games.
Yeah.
So it feels similar to last year.
8 or 9, yeah.
It's fun. It's fun to be discussing this. BYU's going to face this difficult of a schedule, and we're like, they got the talent to compete.
And we think they can win 9 or 10, right?
Yes.
Like 8 would be like mildly disappointing. You remember what it was like to go into seasons in the late 2000s? This was my argument against the weaker schedules, but luckily the last year, 2 years if you count the COVID year, we feel like, wait, BYU's better. Like BYU can handle some of this. My hope and prayer is that BYU wasn't a one-off situation last year as it pertains to a tougher schedule and being able to handle it. Because what BYU did last year was nothing short of remarkable against all those Power 5 teams on the road.
Undefeated, de facto Pac-12 South champs.
It was awesome. Like, BYU's not playing a bunch of the Pac-12 teams, so they've got to show up against Notre Dame, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, right? Like, this is Boise State is going to feel like, hey, last time you smacked us here on our home turf and we beat you last year. We got to win this game. We got to defend this. Oh, by the way, they're still probably ticked they didn't get invited to the Big 12 and BYU's in. Like, there's a lot going into that game too. Utah State feeling like, hey, we're a different version than the one you played in October. Like, we won the Mountain West after that and won the Jimmy Kimmel Los Angeles Bowl in SoFi. Like, we're a big deal now. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome, man. Let's go.
Our question of the day: do you think the 2022 BYU football schedule is tougher than last year's schedule? And it's worth noting that, according to Phil Steele, BYU has the 13th most difficult schedule coming back based on what teams did last year. You can put as much stock into that as you want. We want to hear from you, BYUSN, in Voice of the Nation.
This is the Voice of the Nation on BYU Sports Nation.
Jim Roberts on Twitter agrees with Jarom. Yes, in terms of higher top-end quality with Oregon, Baylor, Notre Dame, and Arkansas. But what is Oregon going to be? And Baylor is in Provo. Yeah. Oh, as is Arkansas.
Yeah, chances are that Oregon's more likely to be very good than mediocre or bad, right? Just Oregon. They
weren't bad. They were just highly inconsistent last year.
Yeah, and the standard's high. Like, you want to know why Utah won the Pac-12? Because Oregon and USC and Washington stunk.
They were not good.
You know what I mean?
They were average at best.
The door was open. Utah walked through it. They should be credited with walking through it. But if USC is really good, you know who wins that division? USC.
Yeah.
Okay? If Arizona State is any semblance of what they were talked about preseason, they were not. They were UCLA Part 2, like we've discussed. UCLA doesn't show up either. What do BYU and UCLA have in common? And Utah until last year. They don't go to the Rose Bowl.
Washington State was in play to go to the Pac-12 championship game with a week to play.
That's how pathetic. Like, the league was way down. Do you ever think the Big 12 will be as down as the Pac-12 was last year?
At some point, yes. Just because
like one year,
weird things happen.
Is that BYU's chance to walk through the door and win the league?
I don't know.
Because
maybe.
Like, in order for BYU to win the Big 12, there've got to be some issues there. Like, to only lose one game or two games in league, you got to be so good.
Yeah, or you're just awesome, right? Baylor won it last year.
But like,
how far off was BYU from Baylor last year? 10 to 15 ranking spots?
Yeah, they were not. That was the only. BYU was not in that game. They were off. Yeah.
Ben Peterson on Twitter says, I'll skip the obvious Pac-12 joke in answering this question.
No, embrace it.
But I think it is more difficult in 2022. You have a good number of Power 5 teams, which include Notre Dame and an SEC school. The only argument I see for easier is that a lot of the tough games are at home this year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hashtag BYUSN.
Fun combo. Let's go. I love that it's April 13th. We can talk football. Coming up, is there any reason we'd glue ourselves to the Marriott Center floor?
Plus, some fallout from BYU basketball after the departure of Chris Burgess. And Dave McCann is in Studio B to discuss those expectations for a tougher schedule in 2022. This is BYU Sports Nation.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Bodyguards. Protection for a life worth living.
I know what it's like to be overlooked, to be doubted, to fly under the radar. I only had one offer coming out of high school, but I was ready for every moment, every opportunity, and every shot that I got. Now I'm playing professional basketball, aiming to be one of the best shooters on the planet. And I'm just getting started. Be ready for your moment with Rapid Reboot, the future of rapid recovery.
And now, introducing your Mountain America All-Stars. Out of BYU, Alex Barcelo and Shaylee Gonzalez.
Thanks for the warm welcome.
So, is this where we get the BYU card?
But of course, the only place you can.
This is really cool.
Yeah, but mine's better.
No way.
Get your BYU card from Mountain America today. It's perfect for students, alumni, and super fans.
As we've spent time working with so many groups around the world, we've learned a lot.
I have really learned the importance of gratitude.
African electrical systems.
Well, I've learned that Kieran actually loves concrete.
The power of cooperation.
But above all,
we've learned the world is a family.
And fixing someone else's problems
ends up fixing my own.
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Men's volleyball is back in the Smith Fieldhouse for the final matches of the regular season, hosting number 1 UCLA Friday and Saturday night, 9 Eastern on BYU TV and the app.
Oh, beat the Bruins. We are live at Studio B. This is your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play alongside Jarom Jordan. I am Spencer Linton. It is our pleasure now to welcome in longtime BYU Sports play-by-play man and analyst Dave McCann here to break down.
Glasses Dave's here today.
Yeah, the smarter one.
The BYU football
the
schedule, among other things. Hey, yeah. No.
Welcome back, first of all. I know that you guys were in the Himalayas
what's up?
And Mexico and all that stuff, so glad you guys made
Disneyland and Augusta, but close enough.
BYU Sports Nation host Dave McCann alongside guest host Spencer Linton and Jarom Jordan.
Yeah, it was yeah,
you were holding down the fort here.
Hey, anytime for you guys have some time off, I'll do whatever I need to do.
Thank you. That's so kind and generous of you.
Well, thanks for coming on, Dave.
Dave, let's start with the schedule. And I'm talking myself into the idea that last year's schedule is on par with next year's BYU football schedule more and more, the closer I look at it. BYU faced 3 conference champions last year, head-to-head, beat 2 of them. Baylor was on the road. Baylor's at home this year. Where do you stand? Like, I know you see higher quality Power 5 opponents, as we talked about last segment, but is last year's schedule automatically just easier than what BYU is about to face in 2022?
Well, I think, for one, if BYU's healthy, this is a great schedule for them. And when we make projections, we're projecting on a healthy quarterback, healthy linebackers, and all that stuff. And last year, BYU got beaten up through that tough schedule. So we're at the tail end. We weren't the same team that took the field against USC as Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah. Close, but especially in the bowl game. I mean, maybe that's a better example. We were a different team in the bowl game than the other games because we got banged up along the way. This year's schedule has the potential to bang us up again. I think we're deeper. I think that's been the battle cry coming out of spring is the team is more equipped to handle a schedule like that. But I look at the non-P5s, and you were hitting on that a minute ago. The non-P5s are so much better this year, in my opinion, that I think the schedule as a whole is could potentially be tougher. It's hard to say in April. I do love that we're talking about in April, and it feels like football season outside.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at this group, and Wyoming is so much better than they used to be, and they're playing here in Provo, but you can't look past them anymore. Utah State, BYU ran all over them last year, and then they got good.
They finished ranked.
Yeah. So, and then they're another year for their new coach, and who knows if we'll play them again. So this is a big game for them coming down with the future uncertain. Liberty on the road. Liberty Liberty's tough. That's going to be a tough game for BYU. And you got Boise State up there in November, and the same kind of thing. The end of a long line of games together. It means more to Boise State than BYU to be playing that game because BYU's moving on and up, and Boise State's got to find another decent P5 type team through 2037 to kind of fill those spots. So when you look at that group, I think the P5s speak for themselves. The non-P5s I think are better, which makes it a very exciting schedule. The kind of schedule where if BYU's banged up, they could lose a handful of those games. But with good health, I think they can. I think they have a chance to have a really good season, much like last year. But I think it's tougher than last year based on the non-P5s, when all we used to do is just judge the strength of the schedule by what P5s, because they have the P5s, and then these are decorated around them, and those aren't easy games.
So with fewer Power 5s on this year's schedule, only 5, but the greater non-Power 5 teams like Wyoming, Utah State, Boise State, do those take the place of some of the Power 5s that BYU faced last year? Because the Cougars faced 7 on last year's schedule.
Well, those are tricky games because they don't motivate you as if they're a Power 5, and yet they're a pretty good team. That makes them dangerous games. It's like, hey, it's Wyoming. Well, come on.
They're projected to go 9-3 and win their division.
They were good last year, but they were Wyoming the whole time. And so for us, it's like, well, it's Wyoming. That's good. That's an easy win. But that's not an easy win. This is Wyoming back to where when BYU played them in Vegas, they ranked 20th. This is a pretty good football team.
This is Joe Tiller, Wyoming.
That was a whack Wyoming team. This is a Mountain West Wyoming team. But they've got it going, and that's one of the games where a fan looks at that and goes, oh, that's a win. Boise State, yeah, that's a win. Well, played BYU last year and forced a couple of turnovers and beat them in Provo. So how is that an easier game up on the blue turf? But I just think as a whole, every week is going to be pretty good with the exception of Utah Tech. And that's
live on BYU TV.
That's live. That's the big one. That's the granddaddy of them all. But that game tells us everything about independence. And it's only appropriate that we're playing them in our final home game as an independent. November's always been hard. We've always had to play games that are throwaway games. Sorry, folks in St. George, but you know what I'm talking about. Throwaway games, and it's the last one. It's the last November-type game that we couldn't schedule anybody for, that we had to settle for an Idaho State or a Utah Tech or a Weber State-type team. And so when I see it there, and I'm like, all right, we're going to turn that into a celebration of life because that is the end of these kind of Novembers. And we might be glad that they're on the schedule depending on how our health is coming out.
Right, because the FCS game probably moves to September in the Big 12.
And it should.
Yeah. So what's interesting about what you brought up is what's more motivating, playing Arizona or Utah State? You know what I mean? Playing Washington State or Utah or Boise State? Because the good news about some of those non-Power Fives is that they are rivalry games.
Yeah.
So I think BYU gets up for Utah State and Boise State.
And they're home.
And they're home.
Wyoming and Utah State, both in Provo.
I was referring to Boise State and Utah State. But
and I think they've been playing Wyoming since 1922. You know, they haven't played them since the Poinsettia Bowl, but it's like the 91st meeting between those two or something
We care about this, but the guys on the team, they don't care.
College Football 2006 from EA Sports says Wyoming's a rivalry game.
06 does? Nice.
But I'll tell you this, if it was over in Laramie, it'd be a bloodbath from their perspective.
Yes.
And I think it's a home and home. We'll see if that even happens as we move forward with the scheduling.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, if there's ever a game to get out of, it is over there. But starting with South Florida, I just think, last year we went through the schedule and I picked 10. I picked us to go 10-2.
What a crazy notion.
And then I think you tried to put those blue goggles on me. But as we look at the schedule again, I know you had it up a minute ago. Let's put it up for just a sec if we can. As we project what's going to happen, you base it on health, and then you look at it, and I see these, and the way I did it last year was show me games BYU will not win. Show me games they do not have a chance at winning. They're not going to win them all because no one does. But show me a game on there or two or three where they go, that's just an automatic loss. Is Notre Dame an automatic loss?
Well, that's the only one we kind of pointed at is BYU will clearly not be a favorite.
Is Oregon an automatic loss? That's a tough game. But does BYU have a chance going in there full health?
Yes.
Toss-up.
Yeah.
BYU has won 10-plus last 2 years.
Right.
We feel like BYU can play with anybody probably except Alabama and Ohio State maybe.
So I think you look at that thing and you can go, okay, find me 2 games that BYU's going to lose where you just go, okay, that's a loss. And the common thread is Notre Dame because they'll be overranked and in the top 15.
Yes.
And Baylor maybe, although I like what you guys said a moment ago. I think BYU has a legitimate shot to beat Baylor.
Sure, different team, not as good as last year, coming to Provo.
Arkansas is intriguing. Especially after Notre Dame. Yep. And it depends on how interested Arkansas is coming here in the middle of an SEC schedule. Yep. But you know that's big boy football and back-to-back weeks. What's BYU's health coming out of Notre Dame? Is Jaron Hall still the quarterback? If he is, I like BYU's chances. And then you go through there, and there are some difficult games, but you could say there's 10 wins there based on, well, who's going to beat them if BYU's healthy? And that's kind of what we got to last year. Maybe there's more than 10, or maybe there's less. But a healthy Jaron Hall with that offensive line and a healthy Chris Brooks and those wide receivers, and you look at the defenses they're going to face, and, yeah, they're not going to win them all. But who just jumps off the page as, oh, they're better than them? And
Notre Dame, and that's it.
And maybe Notre Dame based on history, because I thought they were overrated last year, and it showed toward the end. But playing them neutral in a somewhat BYU home field in Vegas is a game changer for, I don't know what the point spread's going to be, but if it was in South Bend, it would be completely different, I believe, than what we'll see in Vegas.
Yeah.
And Vegas is a home field for BYU. It is a home environment outside of the Strip. We saw it with Arizona. We've seen it every time they've gone down there. there's a feel of this is the home away from home, and they take pride in that. And I think that changes that a little bit. Does it make Notre Dame a 3-point favorite instead of a 7-point favorite? Probably. But in a game where you're a 3-point underdog, you can win that game without it being a shock to the world. Now, if you're a 31-point underdog and you win,
that's different.
That's different. And I don't see any of those on there. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see BYU being a double-digit dog in any of those games.
No.
I think
should they?
I think single. And how? Because we didn't go into the season like this last year. Like, we thought, hey, you did. You said 10 wins, to your credit. But, like, we're feeling like, hey, 10 is possible. Yeah. And we've always felt this way for a long time with BYU football, except the last couple of years. We were like, well, hopefully it's 8, right? This is a good feeling, to feel like there's a chance of doing something special again.
But they weren't used to winning P5s.
Yes.
And after last year, 6-1, it's like, okay, why were we afraid of those guys? And for a while, they were deeper and better. Utah beat BYU for a long time because they were deeper and better at the right moments in those games. But last year, BYU just dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides the whole game long, and then they did it against Arizona State, and they had done it against Arizona, and then they did it against Washington State. I mean, Algier ran for 200 and something on the road in a low-scoring game, and yet they still dominated the line of scrimmage. The two games that we thought last year, Baylor's going to be hard because it's Big 12 on the road. We didn't know Baylor was going to be that good, and USC. But as the course of football goes, USC was maligned as well when we played them with injuries. Fortunately for BYU, their best receiver was on the mend getting ready for the NFL draft.
Drake London.
And they'd gone through 3 quarterbacks, with health and all. That's kind of the road BYU had been on. But in the summertime, we're like, in Los Angeles, Thanksgiving weekend, that's probably going to be a loss. And it turned out BYU only trailed for a few minutes in the whole thing.
Dave McCann is with us on BYU Sports Nation. We need to ask you about the somewhat breaking news we heard about Chris Burgess and BYU Basketball this morning. The assistant coach leaving Provo to take a similar position with Craig Smith at the University of Utah. What will that mean for the future of BYU Basketball with Chris Burgess departing for the University of Utah?
Chris was sitting right here while you guys were on your vacations talking about how to rebuild BYU for the coming season in the Big 12. He's just a good coach. He's a good guy. He's loyal to the end to his employer. He's been loyal to BYU right to the end, and he'll be a great assistant at Utah. You hate to lose good people. The blow is softened if you replace them with good people, and so Mark Pope has an opportunity to do that. We joked that he was the tallest assistant in America, and he agreed. I said, at the Final Four, did you look around and go, I'm the tallest assistant here? And he goes, actually, I did, and I was. But to Mark Pope's credit, he's still 6'11" as the head coach. So in years past, if BYU, I mean, go back to Charles Bradley when he left Roger Reed's staff. It was devastating for BYU. Sean Bradley went from his mission to the NBA. Charles Bradley was 6'10", big star at Wyoming, big man, a guy who could teach big men how to be big men. He left, and for the longest time, it took BYU to, how are you going to convince a big man to come here when you got short guys teaching him how to be a big man? And we saw with Mark Pope and his staff, they started to get some size. And we'll see what happens in the portal and beyond on getting some size for this next season. But it's easier, I think, and I'm not a player and I'm not a coach, but it seems like if I want to be a big man in the NBA, a big man who's been in the NBA can help me get there. Mark Few might be an exception, but he's got some taller assistants that do that kind of stuff. But BYU hasn't had that advantage of, hey, come to BYU as a big man and I'll make you a better big man. I think that's probably why Matt Harms came out. And so I think they'll be okay moving that way. They just lose a good guy and a good coach, and that's unfortunate, but good for him. I'm sure he didn't leave for lesser circumstances. And his daughter's on the volleyball team up there. As a dad, you want to be around your kids, and he wants to be a head coach. So 3 years as assistant there, after a few years of an assistant here, does that put him in a better position to be a head coach? Probably. Doesn't hurt. And so, I'd want to be around my kids if I could, and probably make a whole lot more money doing it.
Dave McCann with us on BYU Sports Nation. Always enjoy the conversation, my friend. Thanks for coming in again.
Hey, which one of you is on vacation Friday? Because I'm coming back in. Do you know? Was one of you?
Not me. Oh, wait. No. Is it me?
Would you check your schedule?
I can't ever remember.
You know what? Have your secretary call me, and then I'm just working that with her.
It's me. Apparently, I'm off on Friday.
Hey,
yeah.
I forgot.
I'll see you on Friday.
Yeah, we'll see you on Friday. We'll
Thanks,
party.
guys.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Coming up, why Spencer's gone on Friday. Plus, BYU's crushing the 2024 recruiting rankings. Is this a new standard?
I'm remembering it now. It's clean the house day for Spencer. Yeah.
It's every day in my house.
Another team throws its helmet in the ring for best team on campus. Ooh, this one off the radar. It's BYU Sports Nation.
I'm going to just smash your wrist looking at these pictures.
My name is Spencer Finnegan. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. During my sophomore year, I got married to my sweetheart, Mary, and there's tons of unexpected expenses when it comes to marriage. We were looking for scholarships. I found the replenishment grant, and my local alumni chapter gave me a grant to help me focus in on school. I'm so excited to, now that I've graduated, give back to those students that are coming to BYU in the future.
Introducing the all-new 2021 Nissan Rogue. A fuel-efficient car that's compact enough to park just about anywhere, but has enough cargo space to fit your hobbies, your kids' hobbies, and your dog's hobbies. It's equipped with the latest safety and efficiency technology for a smooth and quiet ride wherever you want to go, whether it's through the neighborhood or across the country. Are you ready to rogue? It's at Tim Daly Nissan Southtown.
Quick crack. Wash all you want. Don't drive dirty.
As the days grow brighter, so can your life. With stories of faith, love, renewal, and hope.
It's about sharing the light of Christ and being the vessel for God's love.
The BYU TV app offers a deep library of shows to lift and inspire. Simply download it and start streaming for free. Share the gift of BYU TV with family and friends this Easter season.
BYU Sports Nation is brought to you by Maersk, enabling global trade for a growing world.
He is Jarom Jordan. I am Spencer Linton. Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation to interact with the show and get great content throughout the day. We think it's great. Follow us on our social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Now we whip it. Cougar Whip Around presented by Maersk, your integrated container logistics company enabling global trade for a growing world.
Well, Colin Chandler going on his mission to West Africa, Sierra Leone, helped the BYU Africa recruiting pipeline.
No. It will not help the BYU.
He's not going to meet anybody in Sierra Leone that's going to play for BYU, maybe?
No.
Well, that's kind of how we got Ziggy here, though.
It's not impossible. Maybe it helps football. Maybe it helps some sport at BYU.
That's how we got Ziggy was he got baptized, and then he came over to school at BYU.
Yeah. Do I think that there's going to be another besides Gideon George and Foose and Atiki Aliatiki because Collins in Sierra Leone? No.
No, I don't
I do not think that.
I don't either, although that's a very unique mission.
You know what Colin Chandler to BYU is really going to help? Other big name recruits that are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints think really, really long about coming to BYU to play for Mark Pope as they go into the Big 12.
For BYU to go to a Sweet 16 one day, they need like 2 or 3 Collins.
At least 2.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because BYU going to the Sweet 16 has only happened when it's had the National Freaking Player of the Year. Like, that can't be the only way.
Yeah, he's going to help in other ways. BYU softball dropped a tough series to LMU last weekend, which gives the Lions, in a weird way, even though it was the conference opener, kind of that inside track to winning a West Coast Conference softball championship. I bring this up because BYU's won 12 consecutive conference championships in softball.
Incredible.
Is that streak in danger?
Oh, no. No. It was the opening weekend in WCC softball.
Okay.
They're 1 game behind. We've got a lot of games to play still. No.
So
it's not in danger.
So here's the thing. The rest of the West Coast Conference is not good. Straight up. They're just very, very mediocre at best. BYU needs LMU to lose 2 games now. And BYU would have to win out because LMU holds the tiebreaker over BYU if they finish with the same record.
Listen, Santa Clara is going to do us a solid.
San Diego.
Do they even have a team? I know not everyone has a team.
LMU, so BYU soccer fans rooting hard against LMU to lose at least 2 and for BYU to win out in WCC.
It's going to happen. Mark it down.
Okay.
Mark it down. Men's lacrosse is ranked number 1 in the MCLA in the nation.
Okay.
It's among the club circuit, but there's some big names in that circuit. UCLA and Michigan and Oregon, whatever. Are they the best team on campus right now?
What other team on campus right now is ranked number 1?
Cougarettes.
Ooh.
I have Cougarettes as the best team.
Ooh, but okay.
Are they done competing?
They're done. That's the thing. Is like
are they done? Okay,
we're done competing.
We're going active playing teams
right now.
Yeah,
it's got to be lacrosse. But if
shout out to Matt Schneck and the boys.
We're including the Cougarettes. Yeah, how do you argue with 2 more national championships? The trophies were in studio yesterday.
I don't argue with them. Those are amazing.
They're still competing. Yes, it's lacrosse.
Dude, lacrosse is awesome.
It's fun to watch too. If you're not familiar with the sport, you should
I'm
gonna
hammer your wrist so hard.
Please don't do that,
dude. I
need my wrist guards.
I respect the physicality of lacrosse so much.
Yeah, we have gloves and a helmet. We have all of the equipment in Studio B.
When I first started here at Brigham Young University Television, I sidelined lacrosse, and I was like, this is another world that I've never entered, man. It's awesome.
Last night, the National Basketball Association had their play-in games for the playoffs.
And the Minnesota Timberwolves won the NBA title.
The NCAA tournament has been doing the opening round, first 4 games since 2001. Are play-in games at the NBA level worth it?
Yeah, it's intriguing. I wasn't into it that much. I didn't stop and watch per se, but I did jump on social and was like, whoa, everyone's making fun of the Timberwolves.
I'm not a fan of this. I feel like the top 8 teams, whatever, just go with the top 8 teams. If there's a tie between the 8th place teams, then there will be a natural play-in game.
If the Jazz were the 9 or the 10, would you care more about this?
Probably,
because they'd have a shot to get in.
But even then, it's like, okay, congratulations, you got in. Now you're about to lose, probably in a sweep to the number 1 or number 2 seed.
But the points make the playoffs.
I don't know.
Unless you're openly tanking.
I don't like to
the Blazers
take the if you finish 7th, and all of a sudden you have a bad night, you lose 1 game, to the 10. Now your resume doesn't matter at all. It's 1 game, you play bad. You should still be the 7 seed. You shouldn't be ousted for 1 game to the 10 seed.
I think it's fun. It's
8,
the closest.
9 maybe at most, but not a 7-10.
Okay. Last night, a woman glued herself to the floor at the Timberwolves-Clippers game as a form of protest. Would you glue yourself? What would you glue yourself to the floor of the Marriott Center for?
Ooh.
What kind of glue was she using? Gorilla Glue?
I'd glue myself to the floor. It depends on how long I have to stay there, too. If it's just for a day or whatever. How about
a day?
Yeah. I don't know. How about a 7-figure sum? I'd probably glue myself to the Marriott Center floor for $1 million.
I'd probably do it for $1,000, dude. I'm cheap that way.
Okay, but for a day?
Sure.
You stay there for a day for only $1,000?
My kid would bring me some Cheetos.
Your time's worth more than that?
Not really. I'm pretty cheap.
Okay.
If BYU somehow didn't get into the Big 12 and the cost was me being glued to the floor, I would do that. If Mark Pope took another job, when he takes another job, maybe we'll glue ourselves to the floor. If Jimmer ever took a job at Utah.
Oh, maybe I'd glue myself to the floor
as a form of protest.
In protest.
No!
You're
right. I'm going to raise that to 10K now.
Okay, there you go. Last night, Jody Genesee tweeted about a change he would like to see in college football. At DJ Jazzy Jody, longtime writer of sports in the state of Utah. Cougar tails with chocolate frosting and an option to put bacon on the maple ones.
What is this, voodoo donut?
When he was asked about, again, the change he wants to see in college football. Do you like the idea of chocolate frosting and an option to put bacon on a Cougar tail?
I'm not big on the bacon part, although I do love bacon separately. But the chocolate frosting, yes, please.
Like a chocolate frosting Cougar tail along with the maple.
Yes.
But Cougars are tan, and so the maple frosting is like an ode to the actual color of a Cougar.
Who freaking cares? Donut.
I would I want sections where it's not just one whole thing. Give me 3 sections, a foot of maple, a foot of chocolate, and a foot of maple with bacon.
I don't want a 3-foot maple bar. That's too much.
Well, you share it with everyone.
I don't like sharing.
Okay.
Generally.
Wow. Right.
Okay, proof that rivals can look out for each other. My kids aren't eating 2 feet of maple. Ute fan at Papa Smurf Ute tweeted the following.
Okay.
Does any BYU fan out there want this Cheeto to put in an airtight, clear case to save forever? In 2008, a cornflake resembling the state of Illinois sold for $1,300. Should we get BYU fans to top that for this Cheeto?
That will never happen. It's a fun thought, but I'm guessing that the most this goes for is $130 on eBay. Would fan, let alone $1,300, maybe $1.30.
Got that beefy arm sticking out there.
Trogdor. The Papa Smurf Ute tweet is fantastic. I think you should put it up for sale on eBay just to see what it gets. Do it.
Yes.
Put it up for sale on eBay just to see what happens for BYU fans. I will tweet it out. I will propagate that thing on all my social
Papa
media
Smurf.
accounts.
La, 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 la. Coming up, Rogers, shout out to the future of BYU hoops.
BYU making jumps in the football recruiting rankings. How much and what's changed? BYU Sports Nation.
Okay.
BYU Food to Go's convenient location at 2191 North Canyon Road in Provo makes bringing popular BYU foods to your next event easy. Everything's ready when you need it at the drive and load pickup. You drive in and they load no matter the weather. And stop in the on-site creamery for great BYU chocolate milk and ice cream. BYU Food to Go, bringing campus to your table. Call for details, 801-422-5001.
On the next Relative Race, it's all aboard.
No way.
When only 3 teams remain.
Come on, we gotta go.
We have to bring it.
We're gonna go for it no matter what.
And with 2 relatives left.
I don't know who it is.
Wow, mind blowing.
Will everyone get the answers they're looking for?
I love you. What?
BYU Sports Nation is presented by the BYU Store, official outfitter of BYU fans everywhere.
Yo, BYU Sports Nation has its own YouTube channel. You can check out the interviews from the show, episodes of BYU Sports Nation right now, and other content. Subscribe today on the YouTube.
Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. We are live in Studio B on a Wednesday, and we are discussing, Chris Burgess, the assistant basketball coach to Mark Pope, making the move from BYU back to Utah, where he played in a similar position, we're assuming for more money. And
if he's going for less money, then no way. Come on.
I'm sure family's involved too. His daughter's going to play volleyball at the University of Utah as well.
Yep, state champ.
Also, some recruiting rankings to discuss this block. So let's start, first of all, Jarom, with more on the Chris Burgess situation.
Okay.
I mentioned earlier, it's hard not to wonder, okay, what about the big men development for BYU now? Because Chris Burgess was clearly good at that. He did a great job.
Really good.
With Yoli Childs and Matt Harms. And, I mean, the guys that had notes, Foose, Atiki Atiki is coming along. That, to me, obviously is the number one concern. Okay, well, what does Mark Pope do to come in and shore that up and help his big men kind of continue on that path of improvement?
I would really love for Mark to find one of his old NBA teammates that he could bring in. I think that'd be really fun. We'll see what kind of fit there is. Is it a former BYU player that he brings in? Who knows? Or is it someone from the outside? Because remember, Burge, Nick, Cody, Mark, none of them played at BYU. Not a big deal, right? If anything, they can say, let us tell you why this place is awesome, even though I didn't play here. So maybe he gets a BYU assistant. someone that can come in and teach the bigs. We'll see who's available in that regard, who's kind of in the coaching game. Because, there's some notable, assistants out there that could be interesting for BYU. I just wonder about the fit, right? Like, Barrett Peary is sitting there at Texas Tech. Texas Tech, dude. Like, they're really good.
Well, and think about Texas Tech in the Big 12. Wouldn't that be like a huge coup for BYU to pull Barrett Peary from a school that they're going to compete against? That would be amazing.
Like, Barrett's one of the most high-profile guys. Like if and when, Mark takes another job at some point, like Barrett Peary is near the top of the list of guys that would interview for that job or whatever. But if you're talking big man specifically that you want to coach big men, doesn't always have to be a big man who coaches big men. Like Mark Pope can coach guards, like Kalani Sitake for a long time coached like the O-line as a GA, like the D-line at Utah,
Preston
right?
Hadley is currently coaching the BYU defensive line right now.
Yeah, you mix it up. Yeah.
Okay, now with basketball having been discussed, let's get to some recruiting numbers for BYU football. 24/7 Sports has BYU's 2023 recruiting class currently at 30th overall. 30th.
Okay.
Last year's class finished at 55th.
Yeah.
Is this more Big 12 dividends or is this more about Kalani Sitake and winning 10 games in back-to-back seasons?
Good question. I think the Big 12 is certainly alluring. I think that when you get, you look at 22, Kingsley Suamataia is a big deal in that because he's a 5-star. And as we learned from Dave McCann in the Deseret News and just talking to him is BYU was a Jackson Dart away from being in the 30s, like 39th. Like you get another 4-star. There's not a huge difference between 55 and 30, although I would love for BYU to be top 40. I would like to be in the upper third. I think it's unrealistic to expect that BYU would have top 20 or 25 recruiting classes. What that means is you're having like a bunch of 4-stars. I would love to get to that point. Like, can BYU get Puka Nacua out of high school now? Can BYU get Britton Covey? Can BYU get Kingsley Suamataia out of high school? Like, I want to allow for there to be kids that go elsewhere and then see that BYU is a good fit. And like, what are they coming out of high school versus what are they when they leave BYU is another conversation. Like, Tyler Algier is like a 4-star running back now.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But he was a no-star running back. Yes. And BYU admittedly told us in February when we were talking about the signing classes is we still have to develop our guys, but we have to bring in more talented guys than we are now. They're like pretty heavy development. They need to be like, you always develop, but I mean like we're going to rely on the development. You hope the development fills in the other places where the talent does not. For BYU to compete in the Big 12, I'm talking about being in the top 4 and at some point win a Big 12 title. Yeah, you've got to have like 3 Pukas and 2 or 3 Kingsleys. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm not saying 5 stars, but like 4. Like that O-line's got to be like this almost every year if you're going to compete for a Big 12 title.
So I'm not going to put this on the Big 12 dividends just yet. I feel like Kingsley Suamataia is a Big 12 dividend type player. But other than that, pretty much everybody that BYU has on the roster right now was well before they knew anything about BYU going to the Big 12.
Was this a Zach Wilson effect? Like BYU won 10 games, got back into the spotlight.
It's about winning games and changing the culture. And yes, seeing 5 draft picks from the 2020 season.
And a number 2 pick.
All that happened before the Big 12 was ever a reality.
And a 3rd-round left tackle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
5 draft picks in 2020, stealing the nation's attention. But Kingsley, I feel like he's looking at that and saying, well, BYU, like, I want to be closer to home, and they're going to the Big 12, so now I can compete in the Power 5 conference and be close to home.
And let's be honest, like, several of these transfers are Polynesians who wanted to play for Kalani. Let's not underestimate, like, who Kalani is and what he has meant in that regard.
and Samson Nacua.
Okay, coming up, who gets today's Elite Voice of the Day?
By the way, Jarom, the two recruits in the 2024 class would put BYU at number 10.
This always happens, by
the
way.
Two recruits.
This happens every year.
And a farewell rise and shout out. This is BYU Sports Nation.
Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork sells Ford vehicles including the F-150, the pickup designed for work and play. Tim Daly Ford maintains a large inventory, providing more choices for selecting an F-150 with the power and engineering to carry and tow heavy loads. The F-150's design offers comfort, safety, and a range of options to choose from. Think Ford, think Tim Daly Ford in Spanish Fork.
Hi, Spencer Linton here, letting you know when your company joins the BYU team as a corporate partner, your brand can be featured in sports programming on BYU TV and BYU Radio. In addition to all of the great games, you can be part of the BYU coaches shows, place your message in Countdown to Kickoff, basketball pre- and post-game shows, and each weekday on BYU Sports Nation. We invite your team to join ours and become a corporate sponsor of BYU Athletics. For details, email sponsorship@byu.edu today.
Hey family, if you're looking for something new to watch, stop scrolling and start streaming. BYU TV has a ton of great options to binge together. From bold adventure to family drama and even a little fun, there's something for everyone. Binge entire series, experience all the feels, immerse in non-stop intrigue, and treat yourself to unexpected turns. Think you know BYU TV? We're just getting started.
There's nothing quite like doing a live sketch.
Having the audience like nearby is really, really neat to just be able to connect with them and hopefully make their day better.
When you are doing a sketch and you hear your first laugh, it's just like, here we go, let's go for it.
I mean, one of the most rewarding things is having people saying like, I struggle with this or this, and you guys are able to make me laugh at it and realize like I'm not the only person going through those things.
This portion of BYU Sports Nation is presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
BYU Sports Nation, always available on demand via the BYU TV and BYU Radio apps.
Download the pod, Google BYU Sports Nation podcast, subscribe, rate, and review.
Do you think the 2022 BYU football schedule is tougher than last year's 2021 rundown? At Blaine Swallow on Instagram says, yes, I think this year's 4 ranked opponents will be tougher than last year's teams. We still don't know if any non-Power 5 teams will surprise us like those teams in Boise or Logan.
Undoubtedly. That's the exciting part of it.
Wyoming, Boise, Utah State, all projected to be pretty good this year. BYU has all 3 on the schedule.
What if East Carolina's like way better than that? We're like, no, not again.
9-3, East Carolina. Please, no. That's not happening.
We gotta wreck a fool from the 2017 game. No.
Our elite voice of the day, presented by Sundance Mountain Resort, comes from @TobyMac. Says simply, ask me again in December.
It's true.
Hindsight is always 2020.
Yeah.
Today's Rise and Shout Out, presented by Mountain America, the official credit union of BYU Athletics.
Congrats to future elder Colin Chandler, who's going to Sierra Leone on his mission. A mission's awesome. #Safety Zone. You're going to see a lot more of us, Colin.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Get that Africa to BYU pipeline going, man.
It's already going. It's already going.
Our thanks to today's guest, Dave McCann.
Sorry to Dennis Pitter. We ran out of time. We just didn't want to talk. Conversation continues 24/7 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Use the #BYU.
For Jarom, I'm Spencer. Shout out to Nick Sanderson, who would appreciate that dunk from Colin Chandler. See you tomorrow on BYU Sports Nation. Go Cougs.
Nicholas.